keep on catching people and putting them back in jail. The problem we're trying to solve here is giving people a foundation through which they can then become productive citizens.
That's President Obama to talk about a couple of interesting things with President Obama. Bazi Kunani, ABC News correspondent. Good morning, Bazi.
Good morning. How are you?
Great. One of the things he did was talk about this ban the box. Explain that to people.
Sure. So the president announced this new directive as part of a national tour he's on to push a number of criminal justice reforms. So this ban the box directive now requires all federal agencies to get rid of that little checkbox on the front page of job applications that asks if you've ever been convicted of a crime. Now, the president says this does not mean that that question is going away. It does not mean that federal employers can't ask that question or that they can't, get that information. Certainly, they're still going to do background checks, but it means that they have to now ask it a little later in the hiring practice so that people who have been convicted of a crime, however big or however small, at least have a chance to get their foot in the door and to make their case to an employer.
This is federal jobs. This isn't private sector jobs.
Yes, that's true. This directive does not apply to government contractors, but also be private employers. That stopped short of that. He said that he believes that's a decision the legislature should make. There is some movement by a number of lawmakers to try to pass a bill that would also make this apply to government contractors. Right now, the president is hoping that what this will do is just convince private employers to follow suit, to look at this, and to join the government in this initiative.
And without much fanfare, he signed a budget basically funding his current administration through the end of his time in office, right?
As expected, yes, this will be the last budget deal that President Obama signs while he is president. And so he signed this bill just a couple of days before the country was faced with hitting a debt ceiling and possibly defaulting on loans. So this deal means that won't happen, that we won't see the threat of another government shutdown until 2017 at the earliest. And for the Republican leaders and the Democratic leaders who negotiated this deal also means that we won't see an excruciating and bitter budget battle in Congress until well after the 2016 campaign season. And that's something that certainly benefits both parties and both of their candidates heading into congressional elections and, of course, this all-important presidential election coming up.
From all accounts, both sides compromised and got a little of what they wanted, which is sort of the biggest non-story going. Why wasn't that a bigger story in Washington, that these two sides came together and figured something out?
The president pointed that out yesterday when he signed this bill. He said this is an example of how he believes Congress and the government should work. That not either side wasn't perfectly happy with this, but they had to get this compromise done. There was too much to lose by not doing so. But there was a lot of complaining and pushback against this budget deal by especially a group of Republicans who are farther to the right, who were really upset by the process. They felt like this deal was negotiated in secret by their leadership and that they didn't get to be part of negotiating the deal. It wasn't an automatic guarantee that this budget deal would pass through Congress. It wasn't an easy thing to get done, but I think that the leaders on both sides were motivated enough, knowing that they both have something to lose if they don't get this passed.
Bazi Kunani with us, ABC News correspondent. Bazi, thanks for checking in.
Thank you.
7:55 here, Big 550 KTRS. He is also talking about releasing some federal prisoners, some nonviolent criminals, and all of those types of things, which is interesting, not because he's doing this, but because he's getting a lot of bipartisan support for doing these things. The governor of Texas, Rick Perry, when he was in office, did a lot of this, was releasing these nonviolent offenders, letting them out, because locking them up, throwing away the key, is much more expensive than the alternative. And so we seem in this country to be, at least of all the things we can agree on, one of the things we're agreeing on is that maybe locking these people up and throwing away the key is not the best way to go about solving some of society's ills.
Yes, history shows that.
Yeah. And all you have to do is look at the drug laws whether you're in for marijuana or you're in because you're addicted to heroin. Is that the right thing to do? Or the best way to go about solving that problem is locking up somebody who has a heroin addiction and is a nonviolent offender? I don't necessarily have the answer to that, but it seems like a lot of people are asking a lot of tough questions. 7:57 here, Big 550 KTRS.